Welcome, brothers. Welcome, sisters. Welcome to our program on Target. To us on the internet, on Real FM 91.9, or Facebook page, on YouTube, anywhere you are. Welcome to our program on Target. As usual, as soon as we start this program, you can pick up a telephone and call. We never have a subject matter. We speak about anything. Politics, religion, socio-economic issues trending. But you can introduce your own topic. If you want to speak about something, you can introduce it. Whether it is sports or whatever. We never run away from politics, and we express our opinion on any issues we're comfortable with. People have to understand that opinions are not necessarily facts. It's your opinion. So if I have new information and I realize my opinion was off, I'm going to change my opinion. It is not cast in stone. We try as much as possible to speak and advocate and provoke the truth. And we encourage you to call 1 hour. You can call and you can call back. So you could attack me personally and take issue with me personally. But try and avoid attacking callers personally. You can disagree with what they say, but don't go after them, you know. Even in the court system, there is more tolerance for attacking politicians. You know, so I might even be tolerant with you attacking a politician because the court system is a little bit more tolerant. But let's not try to tear down one another. There's a lot of issues in Grenada that we could discuss. Let's discuss it. So you can give us a call. The number to call is 442-0175. Today is River Sally Salaka. So when I come on from here, straight to River Sally Catholic Harvest. Today is the harvest. And tomorrow, they have the Salaka. Whatever left over from the harvest, they cook it and share with the community. That is why River Sally like to say they are the mothers of all Salakas. They harvest today, and then the Salaka tomorrow. And everything is intertwined with culture and ecotourism, so you'll find additional. You might even find drumming and other cultural aspects. But really, the Salaka, the harvest today, the Catholic harvest today, and then the next day, whatever remain, because you give in the harvest. You don't go back home with what remain. You sell for the upkeep of the church, and what remain, you cook it and eat it for yourself. I guess I will participate and contribute to the activities tomorrow. That goes on. That is all well. We have to pay attention to government. Governance of a country is important. And it's politics that determine the direction we go, how fast we go, and at what pace we go. Politics is a very important thing in a country. And the policies of government is important. So I believe at this time, Andy Williams, Lennox Andrew, Joseph Andal, Tevin Andrew, Dennis Cornwall, Karen James, Philip Telesford, Ron Redhead, all of these 9 individuals ought to be able to explain what they mean by restorative justice. I have waited about 9 months for that. I wanted some time. You hear me speaking about restorative justice all the time. But I waited a good time for these ministers to digest it and to see the workability according to Maurice Bishop. He say he support joint leadership, but he don't understand the workability. I like that word, workability. The practicality of restorative justice on the ground. Restorative justice normally is implemented after the aftermath of a crime a crime committed, and then you try to have a policy of restorative justice, where people come in and hear. Now, the National Democratic Congress, one of their fundamental policies is restorative justice. I don't know if Andy Williams and all the other names I call know what that means. Because over the last 9 months, I've been keenly observing the practicality, the workability of restorative justice. I've come to the conclusion that restorative justice is political victimization and political vengeance. But I want to give these ministers the benefit of the doubt to explain what that means, to discuss it among their friends, make certain they know what that means, and explain it. And I hope and pray that I am wrong. I hope and pray that is not political victimization they mean, or political vengeance. Because it seems to me that is what's going on the ground. The NDC, the National Democratic Congress, the implication, the implementing, the practicality of restorative justice is political vengeance and victimization. I appeal to the other journalists in the Caribbean. Whenever you encounter one of these ministers, to ask them what they mean. They have been shying away from the press in Grenada, and the press that is close to them is shying away from them. And they want to implement a policy of victimization in this country and political vengeance. I believe this would backfire, and in the future, it will have serious consequences for Grenada. The prime ministers of the Caribbean like to interfere in Grenada business. I think what is St. Lucian that shoot those people in 1955, 51. And you know they was here in 1983. And in 1979, some of them give their support to Maurice Bishop. So the was supposed to be our brother's keeper. A new government come in Grenada, and they intend to implement restorative justice. So we must know what that means. And the supporters, Cultureman, you must know what that means too. You always call the radio, and I admire you. You always try to defend your party. But you must know what restorative justice means. Because if it means what I think it means, Cultureman, you could be in trouble. When we live in small communities and we start to throw stones and we have glass window, expect with glass window to break. They say if you have cocoa outside, Cultureman, don't beg for it. So you too and the other members of the National Democratic Congress, the social media warriors, the political activists, what I like to call politicos, you must know what the NDC mean by restorative justice. When I bounce you up in a rum shop, you must be able to explain to me it is not political victimization and political vengeance. We ought not to have that in Grenada. No one did wrong to the NDC. So they should not be advocating political victimization. So from time to time, I will have to call on these ministers Anytime I have the opportunity to have a conversation with them, I'll ask them and see their views. But I believe our media should take interest to find out what the NDC mean by restorative justice. The Trade Union Council, the TUC, it is your interest to know, because you represent workers. You do not want this country to deteriorate into systematic or institutionalized political victimization. Really, you claim you is a strategic political analyst, expert, and I know you're the only one in the OECS. I have great respect for your opinion. You must express your opinion on the workability and the practicality of political restorative justice on the ground. Because I believe this is vengeance, political vengeance, and political victimization as I see it play out. You see, I interact on a daily basis with a number of individuals who believe they are politically victimized. When a worker walking in a group and say, I walk in on ice, and two already in the red, and they get rid of two already. As you speak to workers from Grand Bay Estate, 30 of them is home, eating, stewing, and sunsas. Yes, caller, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Pierre.
Yes, great man.
Right. You know, I've been listening for the last couple of years, right, the discourse that we just have as supporters of political parties, members. And you will always say this thing, that person is a GULP, that person is a NDC, that person. You know, sitting back and understand, there's a difference between the moment or whatever every year. And I hear people say, well, that's the marvel, and I just like, that is far from the truth. It could either be a member or be a supporter. Those are the like, people that is leading the NNP was there. They haven't seen nothing. And then you hear somebody, all supporters coming out now and basically denouncing that same said party. I have never in my life, over 40-something years, living in this country, hearing this kind of thing coming from a political party and their supporters or members. Their own members are now short of being fired left, right, and center. Left, right, and center. Now, they're playing the pacifying game. They're trying to cool it down. I have never heard such thing happening under the NNP or during Dr. Mitchell reign. Probably if it was happening, probably social media wasn't prevalent as then. But what I'm hearing now, it is appalling, and it shows the nature of the National Democratic Congress as a party. This new party, as they claim to be, is really on a path of probably they don't care about their own supporters and our members, and they enjoy doing that. And that is a very sad thing. I'm telling people right now, mental illness can come in different forms. You can be a rich person and have mental illness. It doesn't discriminate. So I will give them a little advice. Look at the people at them. Please look at them, because trust me, that party is in power right now. They're governing the country, and it seems to me it's their supporters that are unhappy. Mr. P, have a good afternoon.
Yes, Colin, I've been in town longer than you, I guess, because you said 40-something years. And this is the worst behavior I've seen in a political party post-1983. It is the worst behavior. I've seen the political party hostility towards people in the lower income group. Letters have been given and instructions have been given to individuals who we consider as just supporters of political party, not to go in the opponent's political meetings. So the government of the day is threatening ordinary workers. And sometimes I make a distinction because workers under the public service have a lot of protection. They have the union, they have the staff orders, they have the public service rules and regulations. And while politicians could make their life a little miserable, they cannot fire them. And they could only transfer them within a post of equal status. And if you're a hard worker, you just grow where they plant you and you shock them. But workers in the parallel service are being threatened. I think it is sad, I think it is unfair, and I think it has serious consequences for the future. And that is why I appeal to the present 9 members of parliament, the 9 ministers, the 9 that won election, that have a constituency to represent. They must understand what they mean by restorative justice. That the Imans, everybody know the NDC don't like the Imam. But you apologize to them in your political campaign. You said to them what we did was not politically correct. You had meeting with them after election and indicated that those over 35 have to go. And now you're threatening them further. I guess you don't want them enter into any meeting that seems and smells as if it's an NNP gathering. Your agents have advocated to attend this meeting to see the public officers are there. I think the National Democratic Congress is pushing the line too far. And I plead with the moderates in the NDC to advise them against that. I said before, you should not enter the political meetings to make mischief. You are threatening people while NDC members are wearing yellow jerseys, and they could go anywhere they want. You're threatening suspected members of the NNP simply because government. You know what is sad about it? Is when members of the supporters of the NDC in the private sector start to follow suit. Is when teachers start to follow suit and practice the restorative justice on children. This is my fear. This is my greatest fear. Because the government is institutionalizing it, and too much people in Grenada who could intervene and advise these neophytes that they're on the wrong trajectory. And this has serious negative consequences for a small country like us when they stay silent. This was what resulted in quite a lot of the conflicts before. And then a lot of propaganda and other canvassing around the world and around the Caribbean islands against political parties. Yes, caller, welcome.
Mr. Pierre, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, caller.
Mr. Pierre, when you take a job, you go on job training, they might put a money for you to start to work. You check it out? But Mr. Pierre, you don't do your job in a month time. You want extra money. And then afterwards you coming back and say that you're taking training, you're learning. I said you have to learn before you go to reach to where you want to be? Mr. Pierre?
Well, you see, in the democratic process, the voters have power. And if the voters put juveniles and virgin in places, what they expect? The Grenadian public selected these individuals. They won election, although they...
Doesn't matter that you have a worker and you employ your worker, but you put the person on job training.
We must know what to select next time.
Because the people and them go on job training, they don't reach a good 2 months they want to raise the pay. And when they go there, they're still saying they're taking training.
Well, you see, that is when you end up with inexperienced people that don't have much sense.
I don't understand, Mr. Pierre. We need Mr. Pierre. These people and them what they here have to look into the income, like your money to raise, they put on NIS, and then the shop is very expensive.
Well, you know, it's a lesson for the future that you don't choose inexperienced neophyte to do the most important thing. You don't this.
Mr. Pierre, if you employ somebody, you look into the person, well, you know that person will do the job in a intimate way. So that is what you're looking at. But Mr. Pierre, you don't do nothing. You're
going to take, I'm certain if you're going on a bus in St. George's and you know a fella in your community that never drive bus and you see him is the driver, you won't go up on it.
Because you never see him drive before.
Right. So we in Grenada, we are responsible. We choose a bunch of inexperienced neophytes.
Everybody in the diaspora telling their family, don't vote Dr. Kit Mitchell.
Not everybody. You have people in the diaspora that support NNPP.
The majority. Yeah. Because the majority are the rule right now. Yeah. The majority do it. And they say if you don't do it, I will never give you nothing. And they still have to come back and do the same thing what they didn't want to do.
Well, we must be careful. In 1962, NDC grandmother tell Grenadian they will go unitary state and they will get same pay with Trinidad.
Well, I can't understand.
So we must educate ourselves.
Mr. Pierre, I want you to say something. Let the people and them know the lower bracket people cannot go to the shop. The lower bracket people can't go to the shop, so they have to go and look at what's going on the shelf. Don't put up things and you don't know how the things buying.
Yeah, that is a point.
But people that don't have a day work, all the people and them, they make go how they buying.
Well, the National Democratic Congress always do that. It's not the first time. That's not supposed to shock you.
Listen to Calypsonian and them saying. If you listen what they were saying in the time of the first MDC, I can't understand, Mr. Pierre, and this is why I say the people need to go.
No, but our people need to be educated and they must know. They must understand. Is them that put NDC in power? And NDC won election fair and square.
But if they put them in power, who put them in power and is supposed to face it? But it's like the majority facing it.
Peter had to pay for Paul. Pay for all.
He's not going to have to go to the shop.
Yes, Peter had to pay for Paul.
Deal.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Pierre.
Yes. So I believe we have a good opportunity. We have a lot of history behind us. We cannot say we didn't know. We cannot plead the fifth. We cannot remove ourselves from blame. All of us. We had an opportunity to discuss it with others. We didn't. In the same way I'm asking you now, start to discuss restorative justice. Ask your children to Google the term and see the practicality on the ground. The government said it is restorative justice. It's not transformation. The Prime Minister said we campaign on a policy of transformation, but it is not so much transformation, it is restorative justice. So we must discuss this issue and understand what that means. I believe it is political victimization. Yes, caller, welcome.
Mr. Pierre,
Yes.
afternoon. Yeah,
Yes.
Mr. Pierre, we shouldn't blame the government. We shouldn't be blaming these guys and them for not 95% was women. And I say that's a problem. Poor people. But you know, the same poor people who turn up for NNP went and vote for NDC. Could you believe that?
Of course, I could believe it. It happened in 2008.
Yes,
So
the
we have to
same
educate people.
We have, that's what I'm saying. You have to educate the people. Don't talk about go and get prepare yourself for your ex and all kind of stupidness. Talk to the people. Explain to them why you want them to vote NNP. Because you are the breadwinner. You're the one who's feeding them. They take out the bone and they jump behind the shadow. You understand? They've been warned. Some of them stay quiet, Mr. Pierre. They act like if they're voting for NNP. And I tell them, when election time comes, it's one man, one vote. They could call you needy greedy, call you hungry, they could call you all kind of names. Mr. Pierre, when election time comes, you don't have more power than me. Because one man, one woman, one vote. And I don't know why the people went and do that after they know the people have no experience. Some of them never work yet in their life. And you vote for them. And today you're crying and begging, for Dr. Mitchell to come back. Come back, wait. What you want? You want to kill him? You had it in your hand and you throw it away because a man tell all you go make all your men. Anything all you want, all you go get it. Everything NMP was doing was wrong and illegal. And you buy a story like that? You buy a story like that, and today now you're coming now and begging back for the NMP? Man, we're going to go through hell unless we go through hell. If we doesn't learn, they say once, twice, 3 times. If we doesn't learn, we will never learn again. Mr. Pierre.
It could well be that we don't learn again because a lot of African countries have not learned. Look at the state of Haiti.
Yeah.
They have not learned.
Never learned.
Yeah.
But could you believe that? You had everything. The man create a little job to give all you a little food to eat. Get up in the morning, go and do a little 2-hour task, and then go and do whatever a little thing to make up. So anyhow,
Education and understanding. Yes, caller, welcome. Yes, caller, welcome.
After
Yes.
spoke to you, reading 100%. You can blame them, the end section. You have to blame some of we Gradians who know know the record of the NDC, what they stand for, and what they does do when getting right. And when you look in 2008 election, and then you see what they did, you come back and do you made the same mistake again, and then we cried. You say Peter pay for Paul. Yes, so vote. Some people vote for NNP, some vote for NDC. Even some of NNP people, they went and vote for NDC. They went and vote for permanent, right? Some of them went and vote because they was threatened. Because some of them they have the family away, and the family was used to say I could barrel for them. And the family told I went in that's what told them if they ever go and vote for NNP, they will say nothing for them. But always see Mr. Pierre, who in the kitchen does feel the heat? feel the heat. What happened now? Think bad all over the world. Where are the families that encourage of the NMP supporters to go and vote for the NDC? They turn their back on them because see they might be out there enjoying life, but you are here catching your hell. So you see, and one of the things I paid, it is important for we to know our history and remember our history. And I've always seen, yes, a man did you wrong. Yes, we forgive him, but we should never forget what he did. But if you continue to forget, you will continue making the same mistake. So you always have to remember what happened, what under certain previous. And yes, you may have a different people come with the same father and mother children. What is happening? So the one bunch of people. It's important and it's simple. And to know people,
Yes.
right? Know people. Because if you don't remember, right, and somebody remember, and somebody come and told you what happened, you should go back. Because you could look back on YouTube, a lot of information, the rallies that took place, a lot of the promises. And when you went back on YouTube, you could find it. And so
Yes,
you go
thank
to see me.
Yeah.
They promised me once, they promised me twice, and they hold me. Not the next time again.
Yes.
So,
Thank
that's me.
I think sometimes a lot of the challenges we have in Grenada is our own children, our own people, and even some of the politicians. They have to constantly take the constituents in confidence and explain to them. Because when the politicians come to ask the constituents that they should represent them, they always give the impression it's all about you, it's not me. And I always say Dr. Mitchell has maintained strong support in his constituency. So it means he was doing something that members of his party ought to follow. He was doing what he was doing in his constituency. His constituency gave him maximum support. And perhaps other members should take a page from his book. As you deal with your people, you must explain to your people, so they wouldn't fall for the bell. And that's what they fell for only 3 occasions. This time is worse, because the NDC is institutionalizing victimization, and restorative justice is tantamount to political vengeance. And that is why I call on these ministers to explain, practice on your family, explain to them. Because one of these days when you go out of Grenada, the other journalists in the Caribbean go to ask you, why is it you're practicing political vengeance in your own country? Knowing where we were in history. After the most violent period in our history, where thousands of people was affected, Grenadians wanted reconciliation. Because they realized it's their own family members. There was Garyites, there was Bishopites, there was Kodites. So they wanted reconciliation and peace. In this era, in 2023, we are introducing victimization and vengeance as part of a government policy. And as I always warn people, my greatest fear is the schoolhouse. Because there are incidents that take place in the schoolhouse that cause raised eyebrow. So when you have a government that is supporting victimization, You have to be very careful that it don't play out on your children in the schoolhouse. You see, it's easy to play out, because the majority of children in the school are not doing well. They are failing. I firmly believe that some of them are being profiled. They are neglected. They are sidelined. And they are willfully disadvantaged. You ought not to have an education system where over 70% of the people that exit the education system cannot meet the minimum requirements. And the statistics in the Caribbean, that 60% of the children looking for jobs, or the young people looking for jobs, do not have the skills, the talents, or the education. Yes, caller, welcome.
Mr. Pierre, just have a little tolerance. I shall come back and just make a little point. That statement that the Honorable Prime Minister made upon his transition to the other ministry, and the reason being that they need experience, and did confess to say that they do have experience. Don't feel for a minute that good and deaf is, and that is the case in it. That is not the case in it. These men know the inner workings of the government. Mr. Cornwall knows the working of the Ministry of Finance alongside Mr. Andrew. These men know that is only a smoke or a facade for bigger things they plan to do. Right? It is not just by mere fact that he wants to go to that particular ministry. The things that are covered under that ministry, look at the Prime Minister when he was a lawyer. His previous dealing with certain companies certain people that own certain companies on this island here. And look at who he represented. No, that's his job. Now you're in the state of governance, you're in charge of the country, basically, and you change from a position with the pulse of the country, then you go to another place, another ministry. The link is there. And I used to always listen to Andrew Donald when he say, follow the money. He's been saying that before the campaign, he's been saying that after the campaign. Follow the money. These things are not being done halfway. They are being done calculatively. And at the end of the day, we're going to see how clear it is. Secondly, Mr. Pierre, I would like for you and people like you who's on the radio, who have more understanding of how things work. I've been hearing over and over and over that apparently there were some ministers under the past administration who cars taking $3,000 worth of gas every month. I want to know which part of Grenada you could drive back and forth, fully tank of gas, for the whole month, and you're reaching $3,000 in petrol tax or petrol fees. You pay $3,000. Radio by elements of the NDC, and it's been continued being said. It becomes fact. Like procedure in particular was going out with ministers coming and vehicle once a week and so forth, because it makes force look there was involved in corruption. I've been hearing this thing over the more you say it's Honourable Minister, honored by the journalist about that. She done out of the
NP political party had to have the public relation in place to neutralize the propaganda of the NDC. So that is the NNP fault. Caller, in terms of the Prime Minister moving to the Ministry of Communication, I am very happy that the Prime Minister fired the Minister of Finance, because that is the worst Minister of Finance that ever passed in Grenada. But part of the budget stated the sale of assets, and almost all these assets fall under the Ministry of Communication and Work. So I want you now to research Mr. 10% in Trinidad. And you may understand why is it the Ministry of Communication and Works is so attractive for the Prime Minister at this time. Just research Mr. 10% and add Trinidad. If you just put Mr. 10%, you might get Pakistan. So go on Google and Google Mr. 10% and put Trinidad. And read up on John O. And then you're going to understand the National Democratic Congress like to sell assets. It was them that sell Grenada Electricity Company. It was them that sell NCB Bank. They sold hotel and they sold peace in the market. In 2008, yeah, they sold 30 pieces of property in Grenada. They sold property that did not belong to them. They sold shares that they could not legally share. They still sell it. If they were individual, they would have locked them up and put them in prison. But it's a government. So we expect the National Democratic Congress to sell Granby Estate. They already fired the workers and have them home. I guess they believe those workers is NNP. 30 of them home. They're exposed to eating, stewing, and sauce. Source up management home. But Communication and Works is where the assets is to sell at 10%. Might be an attractive figure. Yes, scholar, welcome.
Mr. Pierre.
Yes, scholar, welcome.
Good afternoon, brother.
Yes, my brother.
I had a good day.
Great, man. Good day, man.
Mr. Pierre.
Yeah.
Can you believe in this day and age you had a government selling government property and sharing the money? Can you believe that? The NFP sell government property and they share the money.
Which piece of property they sold and share the money?
They sell the passport for $300,000 and they share it up. They put 150 in the churches. They put 140,000 in the NFP office. And they give 10 for finance. They shove the money to sue them.
Caller.
That is wicked.
Caller.
Yes.
When,
that's what was done.
caller.
They shove the money to sue them.
Caller. When
Yes.
Deaton talked this bag you know they challenge him and he backed down? When Deaton said, caller.
Government property, government, any amount of money sell for is the approval of the government. So look what I'm talking about church.
All right, caller.
Any amount of money he sell for.
So you saying now, so are you saying, because the previous government did that, Deaton is correct now?
But there is wickedness. What did you do?
So you believe Deaton is correct now?
To do what?
To sell electricity company?
Well, the electricity company sell. That's all.
Do you believe do you believe that Deaton is correct to fire the 30 people in
Well, you have a reason why.
do you know the reason, caller?
NFP government is the worst government of passing here.
All right.
These people take 30 million.
Yes, caller. Thank you. That's the challenge Deaton have, because he is not providing information for his supporters. So the NNP is not in power. The NDC is in power. And the NDC claim they could do better. So, caller, you have to defend the NDC. The public believe the National Democratic Congress and they vote out the NDC out of power. Remember, they did that in the 1990 period. And NDC come back and win all the seats on 2 occasions. And they have 9 seats now. And they are attacking the elderly, physically challenged. disadvantaged children. Over 15 people lost jobs. Down jobs. And that ought to be of concern to all and sundry, particularly people like the trade union. Why I say the trade union? Every time we have a structural adjustment program in Grenada, or you have a crisis, the workers are called to make sacrifice. Every time we have a crisis in Grenada, a downturn in the economy, the workers are called to make sacrifice. So unions ought to be more proactive, prevent economic crisis in the country. We have problems in Haiti with the war in Ukraine that could end up a world war. Russia has been flattening Ukraine. How long Ukraine could continue, whether they will just surrender, or whether the other European countries would enter the war. Our economy is more dependent on the West than the communist countries, than Russia. China. The St. George's University contribute more than for GDP. And the majority of Grenadians are in America and Canada and England. Even Grenada communists is America. We have to be concerned about the actions we take in Grenada. Yes,
is it a fact that
you go right ahead.
Yeah, is it a fact that we're getting ready to sell Fort George to accommodate a hotel?
Well, the government
think they because they intend to move the headquarters, police headquarters from Fort George up to on top of the hill. So I think they want to sell together with the hospital.
Well, it is important. You know, it's thing that so much of our people that was jumping up before so silent. The National Democratic Congress didn't say in the budget in 2008 that they're going to dispose of assets, but they do now. So it is in the interest of all and sundry to find out what assets they're going to sell. And these are neophytes. And if they have to sell, they might get away free. So I think we should be discussing these things. It must be of interest to us. Government should take us in confidence and say what assets they're selling. The NDC political activists, at least Deacon Michel should take you in confidence and tell you what are the assets they're selling. Because indirectly, you are the mouthpiece and you're giving them support to sell out your assets. It will leave your country bankrupt. Grenada could well be a little laughing stock in the Caribbean. You have a government that is selling assets, is hostile to the ordinary people. They promise the Imani some level of security. Now they're planning to fire them. The management system seems to be very weak. They're traveling as if they are children or something like that. You know, as if it's a bunch of teenagers with money. Over $1 million have been spent, approximately $1 million, just for overseas travel. And the statements they are making doesn't seem to have much depth. At one stage, the Prime Minister said by December, the rest of the Caribbean can set this flight issue He's going to sell, lease 2 planes. Couple months after that, he say, he can't lease 2 planes again because you have to have a license. And you have to have permission to run those planes. If you buy a bike, you have to have license and pay insurance and permission to run on the road. But the Prime Minister gave the impression that he just knew that. So obviously, it's difficult to take him seriously. And his ability to negotiate seems to be wanting. We lost 70 million in Barbados because the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister snubbed the financial institution that was providing the money for them. So they lose it. They sent 2 jokers in Barbados. They insulted the people. It's like if you have a serious discussion over financial matters with your neighbor and you send your grandchild. The day of the meeting, you send your grandchild. You call it a snub. So it definitely means the government lacked the skills in negotiation. And they seem to be appointing their friends and close members of the executive of the National Democratic Congress who do not have a good history in Grenada in coming up with good business arrangement. So we could be in really trouble. If we remain silent and do not speak about these things, we might be going on a slippery slope with our eyes closed. And I believe we owe it to the future, we owe it to our children. You know, Grenada have been doing relatively well. We are banned, we are secondly, we are hostile to the disadvantage. We want to say that no one seems to know where we're going. So this is a challenge for us. And it's important that the members of the National Democratic Congress able to defend restorative justice. What do you mean by that? Why is it necessary for you to implement political victimization in a small country like ours? We are always accused of political victimization. In any democratic country, you'll be accused of that. But why do you want to institutionalize it? That's the issue. And shy away from providing information to the public because the Prime Minister's information will be a need to know. Well, we need to know these things. And the ministers of government, you can't just be you can't just be dragged along, tagged along. You have to command more respect for yourself. So you have to be able to answer simple questions. So that's why I say practice. Practice among your family. To give them some explanation why the National Democratic Congress has political victimization and vengeance as part of the policy. Restorative justice. You may not answer me, but a little child may ask you that. When you go to Trinidad, they may ask you that. Those who interviewed the Prime Minister in Tobago, they had him at ease. He was laughing, happy. I admired him. And he was asking him questions and he was telling them the truth. He either told them the truth or he lied for them. So the same thing could happen to you. I don't want that to happen to you. So that's why I'm encouraging you to practice your answers. Because you've been hiding away from the press. Your mouth was loud before election. And now you're ducking and you're hiding. And a little 6-year-old might ask you. You might be cornered. So I don't want you to be embarrassed unduly. So I'm encouraging you. What do you mean by restorative justice? Because I understand it, the practicality is victimization and political vengeance. You're cracking up the communities. You want to break up all the groups in the communities. With that level of vengeance you're implementing. And one have to hope that the private sector, particularly those who are members of the National Democratic Congress, don't support you. And I ask people to watch the schoolhouse carefully. You cannot afford for your children to be victimized. Watch the schoolhouse carefully. Remember, 70% of the children cannot meet the minimum requirement in school. We do not have much groups in the school. Clubs have disappeared. So you will have more social challenges because you do not have clubs and groups for different villages to socialize. And it is in your interest, you the parents. I always encourage the women of this country to take their children's education seriously. There is no reason why your children cannot do well in school. Don't let no one tell you that your children is not academically inclined. What do you mean your child don't? Don't let them tell you that. They profiling our children, and it's only less than 30% are doing well. Far less than 30%. And your child could do well. You know? Try to get your child to learn a musical instrument since age 5. The entertainment industry is a multi-million-dollar one. So if your child has talent, you have to exploit it. If your daughter could sing or your son could sing, encourage voice training very early. If your kids are good in sports, sometimes you, the parents, have to come in or come together with one or two other parents in the community and provide the assistance to them. Take interest in the subjects that your children learn. Don't waste no time with history in school. They're lying too much. Concentrate on mathematics, biology, chemistry and physics, English language, and if your child could do French and Spanish, computer science is absolutely necessary. Make certain your child succeed, because this victimization program that is being institutionalized by the National Democratic Congress could stay with us for decades to come. It could stay with us for decades to come. And it could make some of our children who is not successful in school less competitive on the job market. You know, it's always nice being with you. Today is the Thursday of the octave in Easter. And it's also River Sally harvest. So when I leave here, I'm making for River Sally harvest. And tomorrow I'm back up in River Sally again, taking all the action. And to participate in the activities in the community. And encourage your children to participate in the activities in the community. That's where you learn your history. Thank you very much.
Triple